with Maria and welcome to SC Global News. From the first Catholic Cathedral in Dublin after 500 years to the glass panel theft from the historic church in Cornwall, England, we have many stories to cover. Dublin has received its first cathedral in 500 years. Pope Leo XIV has officially designated St. Mary's Pro Cathedral as the city's Catholic cathedral, elevating it from a temporary status to a permanent one and marking the establishment of the capital's first Catholic cathedral in half a millennium. Pope Leo XIV has designated St. Mary's Pro Cathedral in Dublin as the city's official Catholic cathedral, making it the first cathedral in 500 years. The approval of upgrading its status from temporary to permanent cathedral comes after a request from Archbishop Dermot Farrell as the cathedral celebrates its bicentennial. The Pro in Pro Cathedral stands for Pro Tempore or temporary, and now the cathedral will be known as St. Mary's. Located in Marlborough Street, the cathedral was built in 1825. The laws of a Catholic cathedral in Dublin dates back to the Reformation. Originally, Christ Church served as a Catholic cathedral, but when Protestants broke from the papacy, both Christ Church and St. Patrick's cathedrals became property of the Church of Ireland. It took 300 years before Catholics had a temporary cathedral, with St. Mary's completed in 1825. The issue of cathedral ownership remained one of the lasting legacies of the Reformation, affecting Dublin for centuries. For 500 years, the Catholic population of Dublin had no dedicated cathedral, a consequence of the rise of Protestantism and the subsequent penal laws. Archbishop Farrell shared that it was with great joy that Pope Leo XIV consented to his request and designated St. Mary's as a cathedral church for the archdiocese. He added that the decision was significant for the city and especially for those who live around the cathedral. In his homily at the inauguration mass, the Archbishop stressed the pastoral vision behind the designation. The cathedral is not a museum or a monument, but a community of people, he said, expressing his hope that it would remain a place that fosters and shelters personal prayer and reflection. A place of encounter with the person of Jesus and a place of prayer is ultimately a place of peace. On the 9th World Day of Poor, Pope Leo XIV shared a meal with about 1,300 people from around the world and reflected on many individuals enduring violence, war and hunger. As he blessed the food, the Pope directed his thoughts to those who continue to suffer across the globe. The Pope also thanked the Vincentians for offering the meal.
To mark the World Day of the Poor, Pope Leo shared lunch with over 1,300 people experiencing poverty and exclusion on November the 16th. The event, organized by the Congregation of the Mission on behalf of Vincentian missionaries worldwide, was held at the Vatican's Paul VI Hall. Before the meal, Pope Leo prayed a blessing upon the food and for those who suffer from violence, war, and hunger. Classical music performances by 100 young people from Naples' Rioni Sanita neighborhood added beauty to the fraternal meal. After lunch, the Pope thanked the Vincentian family for their generosity. To mark the 9th World Day of the Poor, Pope Leo presided at the Holy Mass celebrated in St. Peter's Basilica, joined by around 6,000 pilgrims. During his homily, the Holy Father lamented the many forms of poverty that oppress the world, especially the moral and spiritual poverty that afflicted the young people. He emphasized that while it was necessary to respond to urgent needs, Christians must develop a culture of attention to break down the walls of loneliness. The Pope also urged world leaders to listen to the cry of the poorest.
Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal sentenced exiled former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to death in absentia for crimes against humanity over the brutal 2024 protest crackdown that killed over 1,000 civilians using live ammunition and helicopters. Hasina in India denounced the verdict as political revenge by the Yunus interim government and her BNP Jamaat rivals. Supporters protested in Dhaka, calling it victor's justice by a biased court, deepening the nation's political crisis.
In a controversial verdict on Monday, Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal sentenced former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to death in absentia for alleged crime against humanity during the violent suppression of the July-August 2024 student-led protest that toppled her government. The court convicted Hasina, ex-Home Minister Asar Usman Khan Kamal, former Police Chief Chowdhury Abdullah Al Mamun, accusing them of ordering lethal force, including gunfire and helicopter deployments that reportedly killed over 1,000 civilians. Hasina, currently in exile in India, dismissed the ICT as a politically motivated kangaroo court controlled by the interim government led by Muhammad Yunus and influenced by her rivals, including the BNP and Islamist factions. Her supporters denounced the trial as victor's justice and staged angry protests in Dhaka. Critics of the verdict argued the domestic tribunal lacks impartiality and international legitimacy while the cases remain unaddressed by the International Criminal Court. The ruling has deepened Bangladesh's political divide amid ongoing instability.
Mali's Diocese of Sikasso has cancelled the historic January pilgrimage to Our Lady of Kita, the first break since 1953, because ISIS-affiliated jihadists have sharply escalated attacks on Christians across central and northern Mali. Bishop Jean-Baptiste Tiama cited direct threats from Islamic State in the Greater Sahara, which has targeted churches, priests and pilgrim convoys. The decision prioritizes the safety of 20,000 plus expected faithful as ISIS intensifies its campaign against Mali's tiny Christian minority.
The Diocese of Sikasso has cancelled their annual Marian pilgrimage to Our Lady of Kita, a major Catholic event due to escalating jihadist violence in northern and central Mali. Bishop Jean-Baptiste Tiama announced the decision on November 12, citing serious security reasons after consultations with civil and military authorities. The pilgrimage, held every January, typically draws over 20,000 faithful from across Mali and neighboring countries to venerate the Virgin Mary at the hilltop shrine. This year's cancellation marks the first interruption since the tradition began in 1953. Islamist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS have intensified attacks on Christian targets, including churches, clergy and convoys. The Diocese of Mopti remains without a bishop since 2021 due to persistent threats. The safety of pilgrims is paramount, Bishop Tiama stated via Fides news agency. We pray for peace and the return of safe conditions. Local Catholics expressed disappointment but supported the decision. The cancellation underscores the growing isolation of Mali's 300,000 Christians, who comprise roughly 2% of the population in the Muslim-majority nation.
The efforts of an Argentine priest and a young layman who had recently returned from Spain have helped liberate 3 Christian families from bondage in Pakistan. According to minorityrights.org, there are approximately 3 to 5 million Christians under forced labor in the country. To further support Christians in need, Father Riku has launched a project called PAX. 3 Christian families in Pakistan have been freed from bondage by an Argentine priest and a young layman who recently returned from Spain. According to CNA, Father Riku, a priest with the Order of Saint Elias in Argentina, paid the equivalent of $1,700 to liberate 3 Christian families from debt bondage. Father Riku went to Pakistan with the sole purpose of freeing Christian slaves who are suffering under bondage. He brought about $3,000 to pay for their liberation. Father Rico and the Spania Diago flew to Pakistan last year and they were able to free 200 people from bondage. In 2025, they liberated 110 Christian slaves. According to a United Nations report, 3.5 to 5 billion people in Pakistan are engaged in forced labor. According to minorityrights.org, there are approximately 3 million to 5 million Christians in Pakistan. Almost 2% of Pakistan's total population population of 242 million are engaged in forced labor. The majority of slaves are engaged in brickmaking. Father Rico explained that the debts charged against Christian slaves are fabricated by the businessmen involved in brickmaking who keep them in bondage through threats and violence. He recalled that thanks to the supporters and their prayers, 3 families consisting of 11 people were rescued from servitude. On the very day they were released from bondage, he was able to administer the sacraments including baptism. It was, he said, a day of dual liberation. According to opendoors.org, Christians are disproportionately impacted by Pakistan's blasphemy regulations, which are based on Islamic Sharia law. The organization reported that about 1/4 of all blasphemy accusations are directed at Christians, and such charges can carry the death penalty. To assist Christians in need, Father Rico has launched a project called PAX, meaning Peace and Pakistan Christendom, in collaboration with the Order of St. Elias. Diago will be leading the project. Diago explained that the project they launched are still in progress. They are varied and designed with careful consideration for the abilities and traumatic experiences of the people they serve. The goal is to help the freed slaves make a living with the PAX community through work in construction, agriculture, livestock care, and the production of building materials. The project is in phase 1 and it still has a long way to go as they take the first steps toward laying the foundation of Pakistani Christianity. Police are seeking information after a glass panel was taken from the historic church in Cornwall, England. Falmouth and Helston police reported the theft, which is thought to have happened sometime between September 20th and November 6, 2025 at St. Winvallow Church in Gunvallow. Officers are asking members of the public who may have witnessed the incident or who have any information regarding the theft of the glass panel to come forward. A glass panel has been stolen from one of the oldest Anglican churches in Cornwall, England. Police are appealing for information about the theft at St. Winvallow Church in Gunvallow near Helston. The theft is believed to have occurred between September 20th and November 6, 2025. Falmouth and Helston police shared in a Facebook post that it was disappointing that someone has targeted a place that serves the community by stealing a glass panel from the church door. Officers are asking members of the public who may have witnessed the incident or who have any information regarding the theft of the glass panel to come forward. The church, referenced in the Doomsday Book, sits at the base of the sand dunes near the shoreline. Once called the Church of the Storms, it features a detached bell tower built into the side of the cliff. The National Churches Trust notes that none of the original 5th century structure survives. The existing church largely dates from the 15th century. A historic cross that once helped guide pilgrims across the stream still stands in the churchyard. Authorities are urging anyone with information about the stolen glass panel to contact them through their website or by calling 101 and quoting reference number 50250286622. That's all for today. Until we meet again, God bless and thank you.